Good morning, everybody. Happy midday, actually. It just flipped over. Actually, it's still morning. One more minute, and then it'll be afternoon here in Minnesota. Hold tight, everybody. We're getting the three other streams lined up. I'm seeing people populate on Instagram already here. Special Saturday midday edition. We're just waiting for all the other streams to fire up here, so hang tight. Hope you guys are having an awesome extended holiday weekend with friends and family. It's been awesome here. Just absolutely awesome. All right, wheels are still spinning on my app. Hold tight, everybody. Paintley, what's up, man? How you doing? Oh boy, awesome week this week. Let's see. God, the other feeds are still firing up. The internet must be busy today on Small Business Saturday here. So hang tight, everybody. It's anniversary week for my painting company, so we're going to go through a little past, present, future. Let's see. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of other fun stuff, some fun trips I have coming up. Maybe some predictions or prepping for my predictions on the industry for 2025. Looking forward to that, and we'll give you a little preview of mastering the basics again as well too. So, write myself another note here. Man, the app is taking a while today. Hey, everybody on Instagram, hold tight. You guys are way ahead of the curve here. Yeah, gosh darn it. Uh-oh, we got to restart this broadcast. Hold tight, everybody. We're going to get this sucker going here. Let's see if all these will still sync because we have some feeds going. We have some here. I'm going to be watching IG to make sure that everything's still going. I believe we're still good. All right, everybody. We are live on all the channels. Oh, let's see. Oh, we got a red. There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay. Sorry, guys. Just making sure all the feeds are firing up here correctly. Oh, I love it. Okay. I think we have done it, everybody. I think we are live on YouTube, on Facebook, maybe LinkedIn. LinkedIn's looking a little iffy up there, and certainly Instagram for everybody's there. So, all right, everybody, good morning. Bom dia for all my friends watching down in Brazil there. I have more news on Brazil coming up here shortly. It is a beautiful, crisp, super cold, bright blue Small Business Saturday here after Thanksgiving. We're here in what used to be the war room. You can see my old sign up there. This is now my kids' lounge, and I'm absolutely loving it this way here. This is where my kids kind of all gather around with their friends and in the evenings and watch stuff. So very special week this week. There's so much to cover here. It is the 17th anniversary of the Slavik Painting and Restoration Company. 17 years ago, roundabout this day, I made a decision that changed the history of my entire family. And I am very gracious. I am very grateful for that opportunity. It was a very difficult decision at the time to do this because I left my own family business, but we are here and this is absolutely awesome, and it has been my little freedom machine. So let's do some housekeeping first here. Number one, next week Friday, the Gathering of Minnesota Painters, we are at the Graco World Headquarters. You can go see the robots that make the sprayers. Sherwin-Williams is going to host us, and we're going to be talking about some brand new sort of education in the industry. I've been doing a whole bunch of really dynamic marketing experiments in my company. Most of them now using Chat GPT and using artificial intelligence to speed up the analytics of data, but also find new ways to analyze the data that I've already analyzed in the past using human capital. Now we're using artificial intelligence. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about predictions changing in the industry and the market. We're going to talk about lifestyle business. Me, Jason Paris, Christian Manhart, and a whole bunch of other people have been really energized by looking at successful humans, successful businesses at all sizes. We're talking single owner operator, mid-level businesses, and even to the point where conglomerates, shareholders, things like that. We're assembling these groups of painters, and we're showing examples to the industry of people who are having fun, love what they do, contribute to their community, and have time and money freedom. One person, 45 people, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And that's what we're going to be sort of talking about at the Gathering of Minnesota Painters this next Friday in Minnesota at the Graco World Headquarters, the world headquarters of Graco Sprayers, right here in our backyard. Interestingly enough, we are also the world headquarters of Titan and Wagner as well too. They're actually kind of like right across the road from each other. So we are the Silicon Valley of paint sprayers. I will be taking any of your guys' question. I will be giving a brief history of the company, where we're at now, some things in the future, and certainly if you guys want to type in a bunch of questions, I'll be here for you as well. Um, if you guys want a master's class in 2025 in your area, I have an email address in the show notes for this thing. You can get in there and do that. The winter retreat so far is booked. There might be a few schedule changes here and there coming up. We got an amazing roster. We're going to have a lot of fun there in early January up there in northern Minnesota. We also have the Expo coming up. And actually today, there is a promo code. If you find on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on probably TikTok as well too, there's actually a either a Black Friday sale or a Small Business Saturday sale where you can get a discounted Expo registration. So I would definitely look that up if you guys are interested in that. And also, I just realized that I am going back to. Let me make sure my feed is still running here. I'm going back to Brazil. My pilgrimage back to Brazil to see all my friends there and do some really fun stuff in the industry down there. So this is going to be an amazing time. Early December, I'm heading back down to Brazil. You're going to see all the people that you know and love, all the Juliano Alcantaras, the Ronnies, everybody else from down there, Danilos, and it's going to be a pretty awesome time. This will be my third trip, my third pilgrimage down to Brazil to see my master crafts people and paint business owner friends. And there's going to be a really, really cool event going on down there. There's a contest, and I'm still getting more context on this to make sure I understand it correctly. But as far as I can tell, they're going to crown one of the finest painters in Brazil, and they're going to award them a car. And I might be there for the finals of that to contribute, give or take. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Follow along with that. I'll be back just in time for my company Christmas party, and then taking 2 weeks off at the end of the year. All right, so I think we got through the housekeeping. I got lots of notes today, people. As you could imagine, I've been taking notes kind of all week, giving you guys an insight of what you want to talk about here. Now, if you want some pretty deep thoughts on anniversaries, which is this week is a big anniversary week for me. 17 years ago today, I started this painting company, and it's been one of the greatest things I've ever done, minus meeting my wife, having kids, growing up here in New Prague, things like that, and meeting all my friends. Really, this painting business has been my freedom machine. And I love sharing it with all of you guys. I love sharing it with my people here in Minnesota. We're really doing some fun things here for the industry, and it is an absolute blast here. So, yeah, let me check my notes here. If you want some deep thoughts on that stuff, I started a new art project this year called One Page Weekly, where I give myself an assignment every week to use one word as a prompt, write an entire page of something about that word that references to me, deep thoughts about that word as it pertains to master craftspersonship and paint business entrepreneurship. I write a page and then I read it on the internet. And one of the coolest things is there's a whole bunch of little Easter eggs in there for you. There's typically a video that accompanies it, and there's typically an audio track. Once in a while, I will dub in an audio track that's not the video of crickets on my farm, or frogs down at my pond, or something, or a trickling brook, something like that. But really what you're hearing is what I hear and what I see on my farm. And then I have my voice dubbed over with these deep thoughts. And this week is a pretty special one. It's about anniversaries and how I've really not operated well with them. I'm not a very good anniversary reflector and anniversary observer, and I give you my history with that in there. And it was actually kind of cool too. There's a link if you want to listen, watch, or subscribe, all those things in the show notes here. The art project is called One Page Weekly, and it's about 4 to 5 minutes a week that you can listen to. So just quick hitters, give or take. If you are patient enough to do the video and the audio, you're going to see some pretty cool things from my farm. But this episode was really interesting because I kind of pride myself on the one take master, like Ask a Painter. I'm live off the cuff. When I write that page, because I wrote it, it's in my voice. I can sit there, turn on my voice recorder, my audio producing machine here, and just read it through one take. And I usually only have one slight little syllable stumble, something like that. On this one, I was halfway through, and my youngest daughter, Pookie, came busting in that door right there. and she had the biggest smile on her face, and she had just yanked one of her teeth out, and there's not going to be many of these days left. And I had a very interesting reflection because my initial reaction was it was halfway through this beautiful audio recording and it got interrupted, and my initially the hair kind of stood up on my neck and I got a little angry, and then, oh, wait a second, this is my daughter, she just pulled out a tooth. And it was really meta because we're talking about anniversaries. Meanwhile, this is the anniversary of her losing one of her teeth. And we're not going to get many of these in life. And so being present, thinking about it, being kind in the situation, and realizing that this is a very special moment. And it was kind of, I did not insert that portion in it because that's for me and my daughter. That's a private conversation, but I did give a little snippet at the start of my thoughts on that. So it was a really cool sort of meta reflection of like, I'm here talking about how I don't handle anniversaries very well, and meanwhile, something really cool just happened, literally in the recording of this audio, and it was a very special thing. So if you guys want to listen, watch, subscribe, it's all there. So let's talk about the Nick Slavik Painting and Restoration Company. So we are a residential repaint company. We're located in the Southwest Metro of Minnesota, and in a little town called New Prague, named after the Czech capital, Prague. And we are, give or take, 25 people in the winter, 40 plus people in the summer. It swells to much more, but there is trade partners and subcontracting, so I don't technically count all of them. We have a leadership team of 2 project managers, 2 estimators, a coordinator. We have a finishing facility. We've got a whole bunch of in-person master craftspeople and apprentices. Yeah, and it's an entire blast to do what we do. I'm going to give you a little more rundown on all that a little bit later, but the interesting thing is, I got raised in this industry at 10 years old, give or take, starting to work with my father and my mother and my brother. And basically between 10 and 18, I was kind of a slave to the family business, as most upper Midwestern trades-based family businesses are, where you just work for the family business. If your family has a farm, you farm. If your family does concrete, you do concrete because you're helping out the family. And around about 18, I left for the army. And in hindsight, I think I left for the army just to get away from the family business for a little bit. I had a pretty hard driving father, a little passive aggressive, things like that. Didn't quite lead the business in the way that I lead my own now. We had a lot of conflict early on. And I don't know why I joined the army, but I think it was just to get away and get some perspective. I needed a breather for a while, but it was a great time. I joined in 2000, Afghanistan and Iraq, had a whole bunch of fun, came back, GI Bill, got a business degree, a bachelor's degree in business administration with two minors, one in managerial accounting and one in tax accounting, in preparation for sort of rejoining my family business. And now we're probably talking about, I'm 25. I've been in this industry for 15 years. I'm a really, really good master crafts person. I can do things fast. I can do difficult things fast. I can do things very, very good, 98 out of 100 if I'm given the time. And so really it was sort of like, hey, listen, we got the basics of this down. We know what we're doing. What are we going to do with this family? I had a younger brother, 2 years younger than me, and a mother. And we're like, listen, what are we going to do? We got 3 families. If my brother starts a family, I'm going to start a family. And my dad definitely had a family. And when graduated college, came back, had a big summit with the family. And I basically said, just like, what's this look like here? Like, us just doing a workaday sort of thing isn't exactly the highest and best use of our time. And certainly if one of us gets hurt, you're kind of having 2 laborers support 3 families through thick and thin here. So it was a pretty difficult conversation, and kind of blew me away that, out of the blue, my father basically told me, you can be a laborer for me for 25 bucks an hour for the rest of your life. There's no way for you to buy in, to earn in, to help me run this company. We're not going to put your name on the truck. There is no path for you here. So it was a pretty interesting time. Took me and my wife by surprise. And it was really interesting because we were set to get married like a month or 2 later, me and my wife. And my father didn't show up to my wedding after that. And there's a pretty big rift in the family. I had expected a lot more. I think in order to be a good steward for what we have, I think we are capable of a lot more. And this isn't saying that my family didn't want to grow a big business and they just wanted to be painters and craftspeople, and that wasn't good enough for me and I shunned them. It was that I wanted to run a business that if somebody had a knee issue, everything we work for didn't blow away, right? I didn't want to own jobs. I wanted to own something that gave my family generational time and money freedom. And that doesn't have to be big. That doesn't mean that we even don't have to stop painting. It just has to mean like there's got to be some thought behind this stuff. And my father outwardly rejected that. And that was a big shock to me because I had worked all through college. Basically, every thesis I did, every project I did was on something to help this business. I tailored my college education to help this and was kind of, roundfully rejected with that. And it was a big surprise. And I don't know that I took it very well. I was a 25-year-old um, college grad soldier straight out of two wars, starting a family. And I had a lot of vim and vigor in me. And like every 25-year-old male, most likely, probably didn't handle it the best I could. I decided that I was going to start a company in spite of in my family, and I was going to show him, right. And I have a very much longer story than this, a very much longer story than this that I give at my master's classes, but very truncated version here because I don't want to dwell on this, but it's also good for people who've never heard the story before that, business is not easy. Family business is a whole nother level of difficulty layered on over that. It's a multiplier of difficulty for most families. It's either a super superpower, or it's one of the things that brings a business down. So after that, I started my own business and off to the races. That was 2007. We were in the midst of the Great Recession, housing crisis. Um, you know, um, Variable rate mortgages, which I had one and then quickly refinanced. It was a great tool for me, but the economy was wild. And in fact, the economy was worse off than it was in COVID, right? And so it was a very interesting time here. The good part was I focused solely on taking care of my clients. It was one of the weak points that I observed with my father, which is sometimes he got short with clients. And I know he's a good person, he's a stubborn person, but it always kind of irked me that I really, in personal and professional life, kind of abide by that golden rule of it seems like a wild hack in life to just be nice to other humans, and then magically everything goes pretty well for you. And if it doesn't, it's a pretty good litmus test for that human. And there was a lot of times that I observed when I was on the job site with my father that, boy, I would have done something differently like that, or I would have not pushed back as hard. So I kind of took the tact of I'm just going to win every day, every client, all the time, and it was a great strategy. It built up a lot of clients, a lot of repeat work, everything right away. And now, if I take my foot off the marketing pedal now, when we leave a high growth phase, I mean, as much as like 40-45% of our work at about $3 million of business a year is coming from word of mouth repeat and previous clients, which is just awesome. We've amassed such a good reputation, such a good string of work, not only in the actual painting work, but in the client care. It's been a real boon to business, and it's been a great thing, but it's been hard fought, consistent over 17 years. And you could even take that back farther, coming up on 32, 33 years that I've been a painter or involved in this industry. That's 3 decades of laying down solid human interactions, solid painting work in order to have a reputation like that. So it's not been something. It's not a marketing trick. It's who I am. It's what I live, and it's what the core values are of my business now too. So, all right. So thinking about like the first decade of kind of like existence in my business, 2007 to 2017, give or take. I had employees, we did some stuff, we did a bunch of things, we grew, we did some things like this, but it really was like unintentional. There's nothing written down. I did it like everybody else does. You grab some people that you employ them, you do more painting work, you make a little more money, but really it's like you own a job, you partially employ some other people. They're all itinerant, even if they're good people, and you just kind of move on from there. So but really, we're probably talking about 5, 6, 7 years ago. I really decided, like, I had an epiphany um, when one night I had 3 employees who all left. And if you want to hear the story of that, you go back to maybe episode 440 with Aaron Shaver, but he was one of those three people who left me that night. Great guy. Love this guy. And I actually high fived him for leaving because he left for a good cause. But if you want to hear the full story of that, there's an hour and 40-minute long Ask a Painter where we talk about that transition and that very, very sort of like interesting time in my painting business. It's like a trajectory point, an inflection point in my business, and it's a very magical time. But I realized that if three people were going to leave me on a Friday night, I didn't want my business to go from 100 to 0. So I wanted to create something a little larger with redundancy, where we could still have a focus on the craft, but it's not just this a bunch of jobs we own that are itinerant and come and go and things like that. So what I did was I just started growing, and there's a lot of ways where you can think, well, we need to have a production rate estimating system, or we need to have solid SOPs, and at some point you just need to prove that you can manage humans and put up some revenue. That is not always a great strategy for professionalized or stability level business, but certainly in the early years, in order to even afford a project manager or a coordinator or an estimator, you just needed to get some damn revenue on the books. That's what I did. And in the first year, we went from 0 to 10 painters. The next year, 10 to 22, and after that, it was kind of off to the races. So really, what people know of my you know professionalized stable business right now is it's my 33rd year, 32nd year in the industry. It's my 17th year of business, but really all this was built in the last 5 to 7 years, if we're being honest. We had that time where I went back down to 0. We built it back up, and this time I learned a lot of great lessons from the past, and also I had a lot of great help along the way, which is the only reason that this thing is rocking where it is now. The PCA, the Painting Contractors Association, and all the humans in there are integral to what I do. And all of that I know in this industry, all the things I talk about now, are learned in my business, spouted out through Ask a Painter, and reinforced by the humans that are in this industry. I take a lot of lessons from the people who are much farther along and more professional and more stable than I am, and I apply those in my own business, put them through my filter, and then put them out to you guys. So it's been a great time. Um, but the high growth phase, we're ripping, dude. We're going 35 to 53% growth every year, ripping, 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 buying shops, buying vans, buying tools, training people, apprenticeship program, all this other stuff. And just sometimes you just need to do massive action, right? And there's a great, like, maybe about 2 years ago, I exited that phase of cowboy firefighter, founder scaler, high growth mode, give or take. And it's a fun thing, but it's typically not fun for all your people, right? People, unless they're very special humans, don't want a job where it's high growth, high tension, everybody's breathing down everybody's face. A lot of people just want to be paid a lot of money for a relatively good job and low stress. And that's just kind of how it works. But you need to shield your people from a lot of that stuff as you grow, and it's necessary to just do some massive things every once in a while. In my second year of the high growth phase, I just grabbed 12 people one summer and we just went to town. We just did it. We never had enough capacity, so we just freaking did it. We just grabbed a bunch of people and went out there and did as good a work as we possibly could for our clients, and it was a great summer. And then we started adding overhead. The first person I ever hired was a project manager. Immediate relief, because project management at that phase, when you're running 10 to 22 painters, it's all just about clients, paint, checking job sites, coordinating, schedule, all that good stuff. And the estimating was the easy thing. And I actually wrote about this in another one-page weekly, Selling and Estimating, which is, I supported the company to about 1.7 to 2 million on my estimating alone, 3 afternoons a week. And it was pretty wild. It was pretty wild doing all that stuff. So, but there's times where I'm a firm believer that, as a manager or a leader or a founder or a scaler, you need to be exceptional at something. You don't need to be an exceptional painter. You don't need to be an exceptional manager. You don't need to be an exceptional seller, but you probably should do one of those things better than anybody else in your business, or that because otherwise you're going to be topped out by your own skills and you're not going to be able to get through those phases. One of the things that I have a very, very developed skill in is pain tolerance and accountability. So a lot of what I do is I take full ownership of everything. I have a high pain tolerance, so I can do some pretty massive things, some pretty painful things for a very long period of time with really not letting it affect my family or myself, But then there is a point where you take it a little too far and it does. And sometimes you don't even know it. But I will say, in looking back, that has been one of my competitive advantages where, yeah, if there's 100 things to do, I'm just going to start now. I'm going to do them as fast as I possibly can. I'm going to give up a lot of my own free time, try to segment out some family time, but I'm going to do it. And even if you don't like to do it, or you're not good at it, or it's not fair, you just do it. And that was a real good competitive advantage for me going through there. Now, this same competitive advantage now became a anchor around my neck when we started to, I'm going to just pop this up a little bit, when we started to stabilize and professionalize about a year and a half, 2 years ago. We got a beautiful team in place. We got redundancy, all our systems in place. They're locked and loaded. We're learning about humans and the human experience, and we're crafting our systems and processes around it for optimal performance, and things are going great. And then I would argue that one of the biggest problems in this entire industry is that there's not enough managers out there. So I like to chunk people into three general groups in the entire employment world. There's sort of like technicians who do the work, there's managers who manage the technicians, and then there's leaders who lead the managers who manage the technicians. And when you're the grower, founder, scaler, cowboy, firefighter, you got to be all these things. You got to be the technician. You got to paint. You got to manage yourself and other painters, but you also have to lead. And I would consider leading like visionary of the company, thinking out farther ahead. So you're not just painting and reacting, painting and reacting. That's where our industry is kind of stuck right now. Now, when you look at all the people who have created paint businesses out there, typically they start off as a technician and they are a leader. They love, oh man, I'm going to scale this thing up to 10 million and I like painting and we're just going to get after it. And there's this big gap. There's this big wasteland, this sucking just void right in the middle of no management at all. And management is the least sexy thing on earth to leaders. Managing will a lot of times make technicians crumble because they have to hold other people accountable. Holding other people accountable and taking accountability yourself is a superpower. It's something that I pride myself in. Lots of room to grow. But when we look out in the vast world of employment, I seem to take accountability better and hold people accountable a little bit better than other people. Not still at a level where I could be a mid-level manager at Target or I could be at the C-suite of another company, but I'm learning my own voice in that management style. And I seem to be able to manage and lead probably up to about maybe a $5 or $6 million company. That's about where my professional experience is at right now. So I'm trying to stay ahead of my own company, give or take. So this becomes an anchor around your neck because I am a leader, I'm a master technician, and I really had to teach myself to be a manager. My argument right now would be that if you sprinkled real management skills over this industry would change overnight. There are tons of visionaries who love starting something, looking off into the future. There's tons of people who love to do the actual painting. And honestly, there's not a lot of good block and tackle day-to-day managers who love one-on-one meetings, doing the schedule, making sure that every single SOP is followed, everything is complied with. There's not many of those people out there. And that's just the truth of this whole thing. So honestly, advice to everybody in this industry, if you've not grown beyond 500K, give or take, you're really going to need some management skills. And you could think, well, I'm not good at that, or I don't like it, I'm going to hire it. Good freaking luck, right? If you don't know how to manage, you're certainly not going to manage a manager. So these are things you're just going to have to teach yourself if you want to have a business larger than that. I commonly hear this thing. Well, I'm a technician now and I want to be sitting on a beach drinking a blue drink, not doing this, earning passive income, but still owning a painting business. There is a monstrous chasm between those two things there. And you need to be honest what gets you there. Yes, you can have the vision, but honestly, sometimes the vision is sort of the easiest part of this, getting there. The technician part is the easiest of all for most of us. The managers are going to be what gets you there. And that's going to be that day-to-day, boring, unsexy, mundane, kind of rudimentary stuff, the block and tackleness of doing that. So, all right, we're kind of in the past the growth phase. We've started to stabilize with this. So now, like I said, 2 project managers, 2 estimators, a coordinator. We'll get into the systems here. We got we've got a bunch of in-house apprentices, craftspeople, master craftspeople. We got a bunch of trade partners, finishing facility, all our vehicles, all our vans, everything's going good. So now I kind of entered this itchy phase where when you leave high growth, you're sort of just like, you're itching. You love that high testosterone, that sort of like just all these chemicals are racing through your body as a visionary when you're growing and scaling. It's super fun to do. And it's just awesome, awesome, awesome all the time. And then finally, you're sort of like, oh, okay, now what my business needs is a stable manager. So now you're sort of teaching yourself to be a stable manager or growing through that phase in order to get yourself a stable manager or the size you need to be a stable manager. And honestly, these last 2 years, I kind of went back into learning mode again, which is this is not typically what people with my personality do, which is have the office hours, have a uniform, do the one-on-ones, and all the consistent kind of boring things. And I did push back on them a little bit. I want to do visionary stuff. I want to do master technician stuff. But really, what my company needed, my people needed, was that really rigorous day to day manager. So I will say this after about a year or two of doing that, I found my voice as a manager and I enjoy it. I'm finding a lot of energy in it. Uh, and I was beating myself up for a very long time that I didn't just love, just drip love over every single part of being a manager. Then I thought back to painting. Like I love painting. I love the craft, the science, and everything else, and the beauty of it all. And um, what's really interesting is that I didn't exactly just die over every part of being a technician either. So I think I was beating myself up a little too hard. There's things about our lives, our personal relationships, our professional relationships, the craft of painting, the entrepreneurship. We're not going to love everything, right? But some things are satisfying when you do it, and some things are just done on an obligation or because it's the right thing to do. And you don't have to just absolutely get energy from everything you do. That was a big revelation for me and not beating myself up about it. So now where we found ourselves this last year is really interesting. Our leads were down in the spring, and when I reached out to a whole bunch of other people, yeah, we basically just we found that everybody was having the same thing. Leads aren't that easy to come across, or at least as easy as they were. And so I started thinking, well, this whole talk of like recession has been hanging over our head for years and years and years, 15 years probably, and we're a month away from a recession. And this has been 15 years of my life, like a guillotine hanging over our head. And I realized I started going back through my own data because you can't trust the pundits. I mean, these news channels and everything else, and all these prognosticators have been talking about a downturn and recession for years. And turns out, I don't think we were in a recession, but I do trust my own data, the simple data that I collect. So I started going back through the years, and I found one of the most interesting bits of data that I found ever, which is we were right back where we were before the time of COVID. And I have lived through two really crazy times now. I have lived through the 2007 to 2009 Great Recession, unemployment, housing crisis. I've also lived through a global pandemic. Both of them had very similar, like you look at the GDP chart for the United States and you look at the leads per week in my company, and you'll find two things during a large financial crisis or health crisis in the country and the world, which is GDP and my leads drop off a cliff, like precipitously. And then they bounce back twice as much there. And typically because of stimulus from the government. And then they sort of trickle back down. And what's interesting, both of those things did that. And during the pandemic, what happened was precipitous drop, precipitous rise, and then the leads started coming down, GDP started coming down, but it came back to right where it was pre 2020. We're talking 2019, right before the global pandemic. And so the demand for my company matches the gross domestic product of the United States pretty damn closely. And I'm sure that's not unique. But it really did give me comfort that this is not a recession. Things are not bad. We don't have as many leads as we did 12 months ago, but we're kind of going back to normal. So luckily for me, one strategy that I've been working on for the last 24 months is stabilizing this business and making sure that it's recession proof, making sure that there's multiple redundancies and getting lean, even in a time where we were getting 75 leads a week. I was cutting my overhead. I was streamlining everything. I was collecting simple data so that I could make good choices to get the same amount of leads, but for less money, all those sort of good things like that. And it happened at the perfect time because this spring leads were down and I had already started the leaning or the right size process. And this is not because I saw something coming, that I'm a prognosticator, that I looked at 8 different strategies and I picked that one because I thought it was right. This is just a generally good principle. And you saw this in the tech world. You saw this in the general business world where people were leaning up. From the time of COVID, I mean, you look at like the top 10 companies in the S&P 500, and they swelled hundreds and hundreds of thousands of employees that they hired on, contractors hired on, huge investments in big projects, infrastructure, CapEx, things like that. And then if you can remember, probably 18, 24 months ago, remember all those crazy layoffs at Meta, layoffs at X, Twitter, layoffs at Amazon, all the big companies, because they had swelled and they've got really gluttonous. And honestly, the painting industry is a very trickled down version of that, a micro version of that, where we got kind of lazy, and we were taking it easy from all the stimulus money that got passed around. Lots of people were hanging out at home. Home projects were on the rise. People wanted to do stuff. You couldn't go to Italy for a vacation, so you improved your house. And honestly, I don't think we understood what a shot in the arm COVID was to the painting industry and the home service contracting industry. And there's a lot of companies who were started during that time who had never been through good and bad times before. And it can easily lead you to believe that times like this were going to go on forever. And anybody who's been around long enough knows that that's not the truth. So the story of this year has been right sizing, where we've constantly been pushing top line revenue growth so we can afford the next overhead, the next piece of facility or capex. And then we found ourselves in a time where, you know what? We do need to look forward. We do need to grow, but it may not be in all the traditional ways with just top line revenue. We're going to take a look at all the other things in our profit and loss statement, and we're going to start growing by some of those. So let's get super lean on, let's get some new estimating software and coach the hell out of our estimators. Let's revise our production process, which we did 2 summers ago, and then coach the hell out of our project managers. Let's completely revise the coordination process, then coach the hell out of our coordinator. New estimating software, takeoff software. Let's maybe start tiptoeing into commercial work formally. We've always done commercial work. Maybe let's tiptoe a little formal in there to diversify. And when we do marketing, let's, instead of 1 or 2 big things that bring in all our stuff, maybe let's try like 8 to 13 to diversify, get lean, diversify, find lots of channels of jobs, find lots of channels of humans to come into the business. We're doing more trade partners, more subcontracting work, and less we do more and more W-2 work every year. We're just adding that many trade partners to it that meet our core values. Lean up on our finishing facility, lean up on our vehicles. We're starting a fleet replacement plan where I have 20 vehicles in my fleet and we need to systematically replace them. When I bought all these vehicles, they were all $9,000 to $13,000 for a beautiful 50,000 mile van. Now the same thing is 25 to 30. It's a completely different world out there. Interest rates have doubled or tripled on vehicles like that, and it's a completely different landscape. So just getting smart, getting lean, and making sure your processes are in place. So really, 2024 is the year of right sizing, which is you can call out any type of revenue growth that you want to get to. I should be a $3.5 million company. I should be an $8 million company. But when you have enough data, when you have enough experience, sometimes as the visionary, you can set your sights on something like that and say, well, we're going to just grow to this because this is my next goal. There's another way of visioning, which is, what am I capable of? What is my capacity right now? Let's take all the chess pieces, lay them on the board. And when you shake them all up, based on what a W-2 painter can produce, a trade partner can produce, a project manager, estimator, coordinator can produce, and what you can manage, what is that? What does your historical data tell you that you can produce, right? And you start with that as a baseline. And then you start figuring out, well, what's my break even? With this much infrastructure and overhead, what is the minimal amount of money that I need to make every year? So now you have this beautiful 3 bookended process of good, better, best. I probably shouldn't say good, better, best. High, medium, low. Or 3 options for you as you grow, because I don't want to put a judgment over this. You can say, well, here's all my people that I love. I built this great business. Here's the I can't go below number. And if you get sophisticated enough with weekly, monthly, and quarterly revenue production, you can actually break it down to every week, what do I need to produce? And it's not your revenue or your break even divided by 52, because we produce differently in summer as the winter. So what now you need to do is figure out historically, based on the week and the month, what percentage of your revenue is produced in each one of those things. And I made a graph of the last 6 years, and I figured out on average, we do 12 to 13% of our revenue each month in the summer for a high period. And then we go back down to 5, 6, 7% in the winter, and it graduates off there kind of like a bell curve from the summer, like a plateau, and then the shoulders as we get from January to December. And so now you can say every week, what is the minimum I need to make to break even? What is my sort of 10% net profit? And what is like a 20% net profit? Or what is something where we need to grow and gain more revenue? So now every time we have a goal this year or next year, we actually have a trifurcated goal, which is What can't I go below? What is my ideal? And what is like a high goal? How do we know when we're doing very well? And now you can coach your people up to play within those boundaries, and you can actually judge their performance based on, hey, we hit our goal. Well, but if you set your goals super high, that's actually a very good thing, and your people should know that. Sometimes as visionaries, we can set our goals so high that we barely get our people across, and it's actually a monumental win. And then we kind of like, oh man, we barely hit our goal. We got to do better next time. So having the knowledge behind those goals to actually coach your people is a good thing. So right size. Now, when we think about going into the future here, we have to think about growth, right? There can be whiles where, right now we're at a plateau like this, where we can dance around this, we can grow, I can keep coaching my people, we can try new things, we can innovate. But the next leap is going to be a leap in humans. I mean, it's a math problem at here. So basically, what we have to do is it's going to be a leap. We can't just grow by one painter or something. If we add a project manager or an estimator, we're going to have to add between 1 million and 1.5 million worth of growth like that to all that stuff. And that's just the truth of it, in order to maintain the proper overhead to technicians out in the field. And then you also have to start thinking about, you're bumping up into the level where I'm going to have more direct reports. And then we may need to add that next layer of management. I think I'm 2 leaps away from a mid-level manager or a general manager or a president or something like that. So that's going to be the fun part coming up. Also, I'm about 2.5 years away from my oldest child graduating high school and getting into college. I would like there to be opportunities here. I will never make my kids work in this business like my father made me, but I sure as hell am going to make it look fun. And dad's going to have a lot of time and money freedom. He's going to enjoy what he does. And if I can make a good argument for my kids to work with me, not for me, I would absolutely love that in the future. So now you got to prep. We have 4 kids going through, and starting in about 7 years, every 2 years, a kid is going to graduate college and look for some opportunity somewhere in the world. And so I want to have this business. Um, I want to lay the foundation so that if all of a sudden in the span of 5 to 10 years, we need to have 4 other pieces of overhead, if these kids want to join me here, we are going to be able to do that. And all of that is being laid right now. So we can kind of pull some levers and grow and shrink as we need to, and also be recession proof as well, too. Just redundancy, consistency, run and lean, everything documented and stable, right? So we don't get any big shocks up and down, give or take. So that's what we're looking for. Now we have 2 big sort of pieces of investment that need to happen in the future here. I am on track next year to build my forever house. It's a very modest, simple farmhouse, but it's a house that I'm going to live in the rest of my life. And it's kind of a big set piece for me and my family. So we're going to lay down a pretty big investment into the family, at least for me. I don't like debt a whole lot on my farm here. And then after that, the next stage, and this is the fun stuff I love doing, the visionary stage, is I have a real estate holdings company. I have the content creation influencer company, Ask a Painter, and then I have the painting business. And the next big thing that we need to do is we need to lay down a big capital expenditure. I want to lay down something that is significant for the retirement for myself and my wife, and then potentially building generational wealth, which is, I have my eye on a beautiful commercial facility. I would like it to be the headquarters of Nightingale Real Estate Holdings. I would love it to be the headquarters of Ask a Painter, and I would love it to be the headquarters of Nick Slavik Painting and Restoration. On the front of it, we have a beautiful industrial park here. If the lots aren't all sold there, I will be looking to there. Otherwise, we'll be buying a piece of land. And then I would love to tack on somewhere between 6 and 12 commercial rental bays for other young contractors in my area. Think about a 2,000 square foot thing with a tiny office and a bathroom. You can drive a truck in, you can weld in there, you can do cabinets, you can own a paint business and have it in there. And it's going to be absolutely awesome. It's going to be absolutely awesome. And I'm going to love that. That'll be a big capital expenditure. I'll probably be looking for people to go in it with me, but that'll be one of those things where we start laying down some generational wealth. It'll also support the other businesses. So those are kind of the big things that keep me driven during this time here. I want to create opportunities for the people around me, the finest people around me, that if I have a painter or a project manager or a coordinator who is a super high flyer, I want to create opportunities for them so we don't lose them to another company who does give them opportunities. And other side of that is, I really like these people and I trust them and I would like to do things with them. So when it comes time for this real estate development or laying down some really, really like big investment things like that, I'm going to reach out to the people I trust the most, and we're going to see what we can do. And I think it would be an amazing sort of thing to do, to offer your people something that they can't get anywhere else, which is somebody who genuinely cares for them and wants to make a better life for all involved. And that's going to be a super fun piece here. So I'm just going right down my list, checking off all the things here. I'm going to take a quick pause and I'm going to look for any questions. If you guys got questions, comments, anything else, I would love to have them. This is absolutely awesome. I appreciate you guys all watching, especially on family time on a day like this. But this has just been so much fun. We had Thanksgiving here hosting. We did the entire meal here. We got to eat a turkey that my son shot. The biggest tom I've ever seen, 13.5-inch beard, monster. He shot it. He brought it home for the family, and we cooked that, and it fed 13 people plus a bunch of leftovers. So very special sort of thing like that to share some time with Chris Mole. Chris Mole was actually our guide in the Northwoods of Minnesota. Made that sucker happen like he does every spring. And then Milo shot it and brought it home for his family. On the morning of Thanksgiving, I took Sig out and we got one of these guys for him. Sig's main reason on earth is to hunt these pheasants and other mammals out here at the farm. And we got him one. And it was just a great day with family and everything else. And then, yeah, we're just hanging out, doing this stuff. I think as soon as I'm done here, I think I'm going to go pheasant hunting with Sig. We're going to go check out some public land that I haven't been on in a while. And then I think we're going to go see Moana, the new Moana movie, as a family later on. So it'd be good. I'm just enjoying this 4-day weekend with the family. It's going to be great. Okay. So let's talk about some specific things going on in the business right now. And this is sort of like an inside look into my planning process, my thought process for 2025. I've been laying down, the week by week production goals, the staffing goals, a potential like budget. I don't like to use the word budget. I like to lay out, hypothetical financials like that, because a budget makes you think that that you have that money to spend. Well, the goal is to just blow that out of the water, right? And the good thing is I control all the overhead. So I can really high pain tolerance, pretty good work ethic. I can really, really work to keep that overhead low. If somebody else managed it, they would probably want all that budget and then want to spend it all at the end of the year. My goal is not to spend all of it at the end of the year. So, Mike Johnson, how do you analyze on giving opportunities to the people in life when there's always a risk of failure, when it can be difficult, those that you are close with? Yeah. So you put in, number one, you got to vet them for core values. They have to be a proven human in your life who shares those core values with you, has a similar work ethic. They have to have a proven track record of long-term planning, staying with things, overcoming adversity, high pain tolerance, things like that. There have to be people that you like personally and want a personal relationship with, that you happen to do business with, but then also insanely tight agreements on everything. And then there has to be, so let's say we did a big commercial investment and we laid down $1 million in a big commercial facility around here, and I did it with a partner. You would have to have very tight agreements on what happens if you get divorced, what happens if you want out and we want to sell your shares. How do you value the company? Like every December, you'd have to sit down and discuss a valuation and agree upon to it, so that if something does happen, you're not fighting and squabbling over what is this worth. Because one person is going to want it to be worth everything, $100 million. The other person's not going to want it to be worth anything, the person buying the shares. So you just have to be really, really careful with all that sort of stuff. So number one, you vet people. Nobody's perfect. Life happens. But this isn't willy-nilly. This isn't, hey, this painter's been working for me for 6 months. Let's develop real estate. No. You need to have a lifelong track record of showing up early to work, head down, bleeding for the company, share the same core values as me, time and time again, doing more than what's asked of you, and just being a good human all the way around over decades, give or take. So that's what we're looking for. And you know what? If there's nobody there, if the people who do meet those criteria don't have the money to spend or wanted to spend somewhere else, that's fine. But I think it's a very good thing to do, a good leader in shepherding our skills, shepherding our resources to offer opportunities to other people. And it gives me a lot of energy. So that's what we're going to be looking at. So, okay. We talked about fleet management. Okay. Our standard operating procedures are tight. They've been tight for about 7 or 8 years. We're simplifying a little more. We're going to be experimenting with some new cabinet coatings this next year to update our SOPs, because it's been about 4 or 5 years now of using the same system and same coatings. And it's great. It exceeds our clients' expectations. We don't suffer from failures, and it's a great thing. But I always want to stay ahead of it. And also, I'm just a coatings nerd. I like to stay ahead and research that sort of thing. So we'll be looking for some tweaks around the edges. Probably in the biggest area of improvement will probably be coating and trim coatings, primers and coatings. Let's talk about coordination. Huge leap in sales, production, and coordination over the last 2 years here. So right now, we are blessed with recruiting some amazing, amazing humans. Our young coordinator, Jack, came to me in the high school apprenticeship program, internship program, and he blew me out of the water. Amazing young human being. So immediately I started paying him to do stuff in the company, and he took over as full-time slash part-time coordinator probably about a year ago, give or take. And he is such a high speed young person. He adapted to my processes really well. He's a thoughtful human. He does more than we asked. I mean, all the things I just mentioned about people I would potentially want to partner with in the future. And what's really interesting is that I've had college educated office professionals do this role and get burned out at 40 hours a week. And young Jack does it in about 15, 16 hours a week, asks for more. And he's a super high speed guy that, again, I want to find opportunities for humans like this in the future. And that's why I'm working so hard to make sure they're there and not reacting. Coolest other part about this is he does it remote from his dorm room in Duluth when he's going to college for business. And so I work our one-on-ones around his class schedule. I actually hired his roommate, his marketing studying roommate, to do some Ask a Painter stuff for me. So the network grows, and these awesome people are. We're able to surround this company with really amazing humans. So coordination, we simplified the entire process. It's all done virtually. He's got the only remote job in the entire company. He's very accountable. He works all hours of the day whenever he can. It's a flexible job, and we take care of young Jack, and he takes care of us. And it's a really, like, if people want to talk about, oh, kids these days and participation trophies and these lazy, stupid kids, it's like, well, you should come hang around us and our people sometime, because you would think very much differently about the youth and humanity if you saw Jack and all the other people that we employ in our company. And it gives me a lot of energy. That's what we tried to do for years. Okay, coordination. We redid the process. We simplified. We have a single source of truth. I condensed it down into a playbook. That's a spreadsheet for Jack, and he basically used it for his first month and then hasn't looked at it yet. That's how simple and straightforward all the processes are. It's amazing, and it's all just human interaction and things like that. Um, Let's try project management. Project management, not this last summer, the summer before, I did a monumental shift in project management. We took things, we took a system that had kind of been like mushed together, like a bunch of sticky marshmallows bunched together into this big clump, and it worked. It's good. It's better than what's most out there in the industry, but it's still, as a professional, stabilized company where we want to pay people a lot of money, lower their stress, and find other good coworkers for them. Those are three of my big goals. I realized that there was a lot of redundancy and there was a lot of effort to get these processes done. And it worked, it's fine, but it used the humans and their pain tolerance and their effort instead of a replicable system that does some automation for you. So 2 summers ago, we went through, shook the whole thing up. I had help from all my friends, the Kuipers, the Parises. We first principle reasoned. We came up with a brand new production process, single source of truth. We actually got rid of software and apps in a time where people just add them like crazy. We actually got rid of some. We simplified everything. And then we took what was a 60-hour a week job for one of my project managers. We're doing it in about 38. People have vacations now. We've never produced more. We've never had less stress. We've never had more happy clients. We've never had less callbacks. And that's proof system-wide reformation to get things to a single source of truth, to simplify. And then you sprinkle over me actually being a good manager and learning my voice in management, being there to support them and train them daily, consistently, all the time, in the most mundane, boring, like office manager way that I possibly can, which is a really cool thing. So huge difference in project management. We're able to recruit really high caliber people that function in this, people with a lot of life experience, a lot of wisdom that you can't necessarily find with a 20-year-old, even though they just haven't had enough life experience yet. So we're able to grab a whole bunch of those people now and do that. Sales. I'm going to leave marketing and financials to the end. Sales, that was this year. Sales and estimating was the big leaps forward this year. And this is all setting up for kind of predictions into the future and things like this. I'll do a prediction show later on. But sales, we signed on after 17 years. I finally have an estimating software that I use. We've been having a great time with it. It's very tough because there's a whole bunch of them out there. There's a whole bunch of them made by a whole bunch of people I like. All of them do a lot of great things. I've been software pretty agnostic except for Google for a lot of years. And we finally said the next step is going to be doing this. We did it. We implemented it. It's absolutely fantastic. Change the way we do stuff, save our estimators a bunch of hassle, single source of truth, automation, automated follow-ups, more professional presentations. And it forced me to shore up some of my estimating stuff because you guys know me for job costing, production rates, data, all this simple stuff. There was still about 15 to 20% of my estimating process that was based on the human intuition and not hardcore data, a single source of truth, and other things. So, what we did, having to jackboot your production rates and estimating processes and prices and your Bibles into a piece of estimating software, you shine the light on it and nothing could hide. There were those other little areas where it's like, okay, but if we have to just, we have always done it this way, it kind of works. But if you got to put it into there, you actually have to put a number down or a process or a measurement or something on there. And that was great because it helped me shore up the last, it's probably about 5% of our estimating that's still intuition based. And honestly, I don't know that we're ever going to get rid of it because we do estimate stuff we don't estimate every day. I just got asked to restore a concrete statue, like a 15-foot tall concrete statue on a historic church. We've never done this before. There is no data set. I know how to do it. I can guess what it's going to take, but there's nothing in my estimating software that says per linear inch or linear foot of statue restoration. So there's still those things out there. But I will tell you this. We just did our first ever Black Friday sale. And one of the biggest benefits of our estimating software is that I just queried in there. It's kind of like a mini CRM as well. Show me all the unaccepted estimates that were interior over $1,000 since June. And we're going to send out a mass email saying, if you accept this estimate, we'll do this for you right there. That would have taken probably about 4 or 5 hours of work with me and coordinator Jack to come up with that, check it, reference it, store it somewhere. And now it's just done in our estimating software. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And we absolutely love it. So monstrous efforts there. We have been leaning into commercial hardcore for about 2 years. We have never made more efforts than we have since June of this year. We've actually started putting pins in production rates, in prices, linear square foot rates, things like that, unit rates, things like that, getting really serious, having a systematic way of doing a certain amount of estimates per week, getting reactions from contractors, forming relationships with contractors and making inroads, knowing that 25, 26, 27 and beyond, if we want to do any bit of commercial work, which we are very good at, we are very capable, we have the capacity to do, we just don't have access to a lot of it. We need to start laying it down now. This isn't you throw an ad out for painting your deck and then you get deck estimates that's next week. This is a probably 18-month process of laying down. We're probably doing 5 to 10 estimates a week, making 5 to 10 phone calls a week to contractors, constantly, weekly, reviewing every commercial estimate we sent out, getting feedback from the people we send them to, trying to figure out the high and low, the winning estimates, seeing what their production rates are, their charge rates are, putting them onto ours and then adjusting and then sort of trying to figure out where the market rate is. And I absolutely love this stuff. I absolutely love it. This is now back into learning phase, which is something I did for residential stuff in the last 10 to 15 years. Now I'm back at this point of like, oh, I actually don't know from experience what that is. And I can't write it down. We need to go figure it out, which is a super, super fun thing there. And I love being at the edge of my knowledge and doing that stuff. So let's talk about financials. I have been working over my profit and loss statement like a heavy bag for about 3 years now. And I'm getting it to the point where you can actually make decisions from it. Because if you just leave your profit and loss statement, what you make, what comes in, what comes out, what you made at the end of the year, overhead, variable expenses, things like this. If you just leave that to your tax accountant, it's going to be a whole bunch of crap that doesn't pertain to you inside the business, right? Like amortization, there's a line item on there and it takes money off and I'm actually making less money, but is amortization a thing you touch or is that a thing for taxes or is that a theoretical thing to higher or lower your deductions? And so you have to get a profit and loss statement, at least at my level, where you can make decisions off it and potentially run a business from it. Because you can't rely on one human in the company to know if a job went well and then make changes or to buy vans or to other things. You need to be able to run a business from a profit and loss where you can see all the things coming in, you trust the surety of them all, and then you can actually make decisions. You can actually look at percentage of marketing. When we spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing, this can't be a feelings-based thing. We've got to look at that P&L. We've got to look at the revenue coming in. We got to look at the expenses. We got to look at the cost of marketing, and then we start looking at cost of lead, cost of estimate, cost of sold job, and then making decisions on that. But you need to look at it aggregated in a large thing like that. And it seems easier. It seems easier than it actually is to like, well, just put your marketing in there. But how is it timed? How is it charged? Are there some things, like Google? I have three different charges for Google. What of that is marketing, like Google AdWords? What of that is storage or apps for the business? What of it is just other random stuff that happens through there? So you kind of all have to be like, you got to be working over that P&L. You got to verify. You got to make sure all the expenses are put in the right place, and you got to work with your accountant. And honestly, I think I had to switch accountants this last year. My other accountant wasn't keeping up, wasn't as responsive as I would have liked, and we need to do big things with this business. So got a new accountant this last year, new banker, and we really laid into this P&L, and it's usable now. So I can pull up my QuickBooks. I can do a profit and loss by month, and I can make a decision for marketing in January based on the data that shows quickly without having to do a bunch of calculations. But that's taken a long time. It's a little higher level of sophistication running a business from that. I'm not going to claim to be an expert. I did go to college for it, but I'm really learning how to do it right now and learning how to adapt it every year as the business changes as well too, because this isn't a set piece that you just leave. So all right, so let's talk about marketing. This is the biggest thing now. So the about 18 months ago, I really started figuring out that we had too many eggs in one basket, right? We were doing a lot of direct mail. A lot of our stuff's coming from it. We're beholden to one vendor. We're getting our leads from one way. If anything ever changes, or if this person decides to retire who does all my flyers, this is going to be a pretty tough thing. So we decided to diversify. And instead of two things making up 40% each of my leads, now there's nothing that creates more than 15 to 18% of my leads. And we do about 13 different channels of marketing. We really, there's about 6 or 7 that create the majority, like the 95% of my leads. But then we have a whole bunch of other trickle stuff. If you think about like vans and my local newspaper and yard signs, if they have 1 to 4% each, you add 3 or 4s together, all of a sudden you got 15, 18% more leads just by having these little micro trickles of leads coming in. And we track it very closely. We pay attention to it. I look at it weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly, and then start making decisions based on what did it cost per lead, estimate, and then sold job. That is one of the biggest myths in our industry. Well, hey, I'm getting $49 leads from this marketing agency. It's like, well, how many did you sell and do? Because I've done these experiments too, where somebody dropped a whole bunch of leads on me. I only sold one job. Turns out it was an $1,800 job that cost me $2,000 worth of marketing to get. Cheap leads, but if nothing pans out, it's not worth it. So we've been really paying attention to what is the cost per lead, but in the end, what does it cost me per job, right? And that's the most important thing. And we have diversified. We've gotten super lean. We've substituted a lot more effort and a lot less money. I've actually taken my marketing spend down in winter by 50%, give or take. We used to rifle out there about $22,000 to $24,000 a month in marketing in the winter. We're down below $10,000 a month now in the marketing, in the winter marketing there. And we've never been booked out as far, and our jobs are more profitable. So again, it's like, it's not just throwing up top line numbers, spending as much as you can, force majeure. It's now, because we've proven we can recruit people, it's proven we can put up revenue. Now we got to do everything better. And that's the job. Honestly, it's easy to just grab a bunch of people and throw up a bunch of top line revenue. But if you don't make any money from that, it's actually a very painful way to go through life. So I'm very careful about all of that stuff. But the biggest changes in the coolest thing that I've been doing now for the last 3 months is I have laid down a pretty good track record of having a whole bunch of simple data from years and years and years, consistent, grueling data. I've been feeding these dang spreadsheets into ChatGPT and asking questions, and it is getting interesting. You can start looking at, my job costing has information about the address and if a subcontractor did it, and what was the amount of hours used on it, what was the percentage of labor, materials, gross profit, what was the hourly budget based on $75 an hour? Did we hit budget? Did we not? Where did this come from? Was it a mail or was it this? So you can say now, I can feed this into ChatGPT and say, based on all the deck projects we did for the last 3 years, show me the top 3 zip codes, number 1 by jobs and number 2 by amount of revenue. And then when they show you those top 3 zip codes, you can say, well, based on the profitability, when you look at my job costing, is there one zip code that we do a lot of work but it's not profitable, or do a lot of work and it's super profitable? And then it'll tell you that. And you can just grab a whole bunch of demographic data from your people. You can feed in years of job costing and then say, hey, tell me what the average age and income of these people are. what is the average age of the house? And then sometimes you have to feed it a link, like use this demographic data or use this every door direct mail data or this US Postal Service data, and then compare these things. And you can actually come up with avatars that are pretty, you would used to have to spend $15,000 on marketing research for a company to look at all your addresses, analyze databases, and tell you what the average age of a house is, the age of the clients, the average income, the family size, and this and that. And now you can do this stuff in minutes and hours on ChatGPT. So that's one of the most interesting things. Now, there's a whole bunch of marvelous stuff you can do on ChatGPT that's not usable for business. But for me, feeding in basic job costing information and CRM kind of stuff, and then it's spitting out what your top 5 zip codes are, and then you focusing on those zip codes, pretty cool. It's pretty cool stuff. Analyzing all your work, saying, hey, based on the revenue size of these exteriors, what's the most profitable revenue level for a house? And magically, you'll find there might be a surprise. It might be that $8,000 exterior that you do, not those big, crazy $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 ones, things like that. But it's data plus feelings, and that's the biggest thing there. So, okay, one last peruse through here. I don't want to miss any comments. I've been talking a lot here. Thank you for everybody watching. Absolutely love this. Do me a quick favor. I'm going to talk about one other thing before I hop off today. It's already been an hour. I appreciate you guys being here with me. Like and follow Ask a Painter, not only on Instagram, on Facebook, but right now, share this. Put it in your stories, put it in your feeds, and put it in all of those painter groups that we're all part of right now. Just click it. Make it really easy for everybody right here. Click on the little paper airplane in Instagram. Click on the share button on the Facebook. And if you're in LinkedIn or YouTube as well, share it, like it, subscribe, follow, whatever you need to do. I want to talk about my most popular series of Ask a Painter live shows. It's my Mastering the Basics. I keep a list of steps to professionalization, the things that I did and other people did to go from 0 to, I don't know, we did 25 to 40 people in about 5 years, give or take, seasonally. And it's proven processes. It's everything I did in order. I have links to my free resources. I have links to the shows that will show you how to do this. And after the first of the year, once we're all back to business, I'm going to be systematically going through Mastering the Basics. We're going to be talking about initially a proven process, SOPs, getting your painting process down so that you can start getting a database estimate process down. Then you can get a marketing system down, then a production system down, and then all the way to the final step of professionalization, which is building a team and professionalizing yourself. And again, as you guys have known to come love Ask a Painter for, is all the free resources that you're going to get through there. So we're going to hit them every week, one step, hand out the resources. After everybody's had all their holiday hangover done, we're all back to business, and we all have these big goals for what we want to do this year. I'm going to be hammering this thing. So watch for Mastering the Basics. It's going to be an absolutely awesome process here. Ryan Keuschel, thank you so much. I really appreciate another Minnesota painter like that. Enjoy the family time. Let's see, Mastering the Basics. I got that. Also, guys, 17th anniversary of the Nick Slavik Painting and Restoration Company this week. My 90-year-old grandmother texted me. She was the first investor in this company. I think she gave me $1,000, give or take, to get off the ground, and I never forget it. And I try to repay her every day, although that is a repayment that will never be paid in full for all what she's done. She's an old Czechoslovakian lady that milked a cow by hand, had to learn English in school. She wrote with her left hand. She got beaten up for it, and she is a absolute living saint and North Star for me, especially in business here. And she texts me on the anniversary of almost everything I do, which makes me very sad because I'm not good at anniversaries, even though she is the best. She calls on every one of my kids' birthdays. She calls and sings happy birthday on voicemail, and then we save that for them. So I have tens and tens and tens. I have probably 80 of these different happy birthday songs that my 90-year-old grandma sends my kids. We save them all in my Google Drive for them. Having said all this, I did a writing assignment, my art project, One Page Weekly, on anniversaries this week, where I did about a 4 to 5 minute treatise on how horrible I've been with anniversaries, personally and professionally, how it's changed in this recent years, and then sort of settling into this realization that, you know what? I think I'm actually appreciating anniversaries now. And it's happened because of a lot of the people I met at the PCA. It's helped with professionalizing this business. It is all these things we talk about, the industry, my business, my influencing and content creation business and public speaking business, my real estate business has all made me a better human all around. All these things, if you want them to progress and be there generationally for people, you're going to have to be a better human. And if you want it that bad, you're going to force yourself to be that better human to usher these resources to the next generation. And I've forced myself to do that. It is not solved. It is not done. I am not a fully complete human, but God damn it, I'm a lot better than I was a couple of years ago. And I just really appreciate the humans around me in my own businesses, in the PCA. This whole group of people here, Ask a Painter, who I've connected with over the years. Things like this have led me to be able to go to Brazil to see my master craftspeople, which I'll be doing here in a couple of weeks. And it's going to be an amazing time. I am deeply appreciative for everybody who's been on this journey with me. 17 years. I've been on this internet for about 10 or 12 years, putting pictures out there and stories out about my life and sharing them with all of you. And it's not because I do everything perfectly. It's because I'm open and I learn and I'm accountable. And I have never learned more than from you guys. So thank you. Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the family time. I know I will. I'm taking little Siggy boy out and we're going to find some more of these today. And just enjoy the rest of the weekend. And certainly as we get into December and the holiday season and a fresh start, a clean slate for next year, I really am glad I'm doing this with you guys and look forward to that Mastering the Basics series right after the start of the year. I get so much interaction. I probably get 60 emails a week from people asking for the resources, asking for help using them. And my God, do I love that. So looking forward to an awesome year, everybody. Thank you for being here on the 17-year journey with me. Have a great end of the year.